Good day, my fellow Americans and good people of the world. Today I'd like to address you in regards to the No Labels 2024 ballot project to create a unity ticket to run for president if the two major political parties select candidates that the vast majority of Americans do not want to vote for in 2024. No Labels is an American political organization that believes most Americans are decent, caring, reasonable, and patriotic people. However, they don't see those traits reflected in politics today. They hear reason and persuasion being replaced by anger and intimidation, while those that call themselves leaders are driving the nation into the ground with identity politics, rather than steering a course for the nation towards what's best for our country that actually connects with the kitchen table concerns most Americans think about every day. Now, No Labels stands by a simple truth that America can't solve its biggest problems and deliver the results that hardworking taxpayers want, need, and deserve unless Democrats and Republicans start working together side by side on common sense solutions. Despite their appeal to well-known political and public figures to join the unity ticket, many declined for various reasons, including concerns about who is funding the movement and that any attempt at an independent run would clinch a win for Trump, and few wanted to suffer the political fallout if they were pinned with those consequences. So, No Labels ended their ballot effort back in April of this year because they couldn't identify a candidate with a credible path to winning the White House, despite knowing that Americans remain more open to an independent presidential run and hungrier for unifying national leadership than ever before. No Labels recognize that this is likely to be the most divisive presidential election of our lives. Like many Americans, they are concerned about the outcome, regardless of who wins, but they remain prepared to champion and defend values and interests of America's common sense majority. I believe if No Labels would have remained open to the possibilities that a fameless individual with a grand strategy to achieve unity within the nation could be a viable candidate, then they could have backed someone like me, giving America a fighting chance to break away from the dichotomy of divisiveness from candidates by choosing another way forward for America. I'm not affiliated with No Labels, but like many Americans, I am in agreement with their foundational belief and their common sense agenda. They created a common sense booklet outlining a clear blueprint for America's common sense majority, which they want this country to use to go forward. And I have read this and created a reflective response with my own outlook, which aligns with the 30 points detailed in their booklet. If you haven't read this booklet, I highly encourage you to visit the No Labels website and to download a copy for yourself. It puts into perspective what should be obvious about American ideals. With that, I will share my listed response numbered to match each of the 30 points in the No Labels Common Sense booklet. Number 1, requirements of successful collaboration, the proper role of political representatives in deciding policy in a democratic society. Representatives who have the legitimate right to exercise authority by creating policy must work in the interest of the nation, placing it over their political ideologies. Policies should be consensual, consensus building, cooperative, responsive to and accountable to relevant constituencies. Understanding that adversarial direction of policy undercuts its initial goals of creating national solutions to problems that affect the public, bipartisanship is the credible way to articulate government action. Bipartisan efforts work to reduce incongruity between expectations of the public and the actual experiences of participants in the process of government action. Bipartisan policymakers assume a cultural experiential model of risk to inform their decision-making process regarding disputes over deeply held values. The bipartisan process embodies the precautionary principles that challenge necessity to address risk with appeal to caution and prudence before taking a step that could be harmful later, while still operating without the incessant holdup of varied claims of uncertainty that only go to delay action. In the majority of cases, bipartisan approach to policy creation is collaborative in that it is a constructive process that is open, utilizes civil communication, generally proceeding as a dialogue with the focus on the future and an emphasis on learning along with some degree of power sharing and leveling of the playing field to establish common ground. The bipartisan approach is a resolution to actively build a movement towards collaboration and consensus in policy that accounts for considerations of the communities that will address the issues the policy is created for, from a human rights, social justice, lifestyle, civic engagement, economic participation, and labor perspectives. The model of collaboration and the consensus-based approach holds the key to an effective problem-solving process. Requirements of successful collaboration include relevant stakeholders are at the table. Participants adopt a problem-solving approach rather than a manipulative or adversarial one. Discussions, conversations, debates, and information sharing is happening actively. 3 elements of bipartisanship. Number 1, access. The minimum resources that citizens need to exercise fully their opportunity to participate in the problem-solving process, including time and place, readily available information, and technical assistance to help them understand issues and continuing opportunities for public involvement. Number 2, standing. The civic legitimacy that gives the respect and the esteem and consideration of all stakeholders' perspectives that should be given. Number 3, influence. Participants have opportunity to be part of a transparent process that considers all alternative opportunities, that meaningfully scope alternative opportunities, that inform the decision criteria and provide thoughtful response to stakeholders' concerns and ideas. Terms and conditions for successful bipartisan collaboration to represent the public interest in common sense governance. First, collaboration begins when relevant stakeholders are brought to the table in a collective effort to address some problem so they can co-creatively work out a solution-oriented approach to answer the intractability of the problem through policy and law. Collaboration readiness is approached by communication among participants in striving to set aside reactionary motives that are manipulative and adversarial so as to fully embrace the workable solution-seeking process of discussion, conversation, and presenting information focused on the issues. The objective is to concretely define the problem and all relevant concerns, determine the criteria for appropriate solutions, and finally, address the concerns of all parties. The entire method of collaboration is essentially about listening, learning, and trying to agree on workable solutions while avoiding overtly adversarial or persuasive stances. Collaboration movement progresses as the opportunity for all participants to have access to necessary resources and opportunities to participate in providing input, being heard, and to question or challenge the views of other participants is acted upon. It is because a collaborative effort cannot be imposed, it must be agreed upon, that all participants guard against the effects of different levels of power, privilege, to ensure that all voices are respected and have opportunity to influence the solution. Collaboration directive aims to achieve consensus by giving chances for everyone to be heard and discuss approaches to find a common ground. Consensus is where everyone agrees to the outcome solution by varying degrees of enthusiasm. Whereas in compromise, a solution is worked out that does not satisfy all participants, but achieves a minimum criteria to accept the solution just to move forward on the matter. It is because support of all parties is usually necessary for solutions to work that consensus is the appropriate course for problem-solving outcomes. The only cases where compromise by majority vote is appropriate is when the matters are of trivial matters or an emergency issue, or matters to which long-standing discussions among members cannot reach agreement even after extended discussion. Then finally, collaboration completion is fulfilled when the recommendation of the group is sent to advise the relevant agencies who will then implement the process of the solution outcome approach that is decided upon, thus finalizing the problem solution collaboration successfully. Number 2 through 5. In recognition of the seriousness of economic ecology and the philosophy which make protecting the welfare of the people and the planet the most essential objective of any organized economic activity, it is absurd that the economy and the budget and the implications of the deficit is that the mechanization of both are trying to function on dysfunctional beliefs of unfairness, deceit, baseness, uselessness, wastefulness, degradation, mediocrity, and failure in mass, unlimited growth, and then superficial meritocracy. Controlling all outcomes in the economic dimensions are two unchanging and unarguable realities. We either continuously move towards survival and stability, or we are in the process of disintegration and destruction. An economy that is made for fostering the solid foundations of lasting happiness and success for the people depends on fairness, kindness, dignity, charity, integrity, honesty, quality service, patience, prudence, and merits of shared life vitality and stewardship. Trust and communication are preconditions to a successful economy and national budget. We must appeal with people and to cultures on issues of public importance to improve the implementation of economic strategy, to improve economic integrity, and to shore up budgeting to reflect comfortable conservation of finances and fiscal stewardship. What America needs is to develop an economic value system with magnetic principles of deep respect for people and property, fostering health, well-being, and dignity in living, and upholding human rights with financial commitment to the responsibilities of stewardship. These universally applicable principles can be internalized into habits of people, and that empowers those people to create a wide variety of practices, so when depending on their own abilities, they can apply these principles to deal with different situations. One of the things that ought to be done around the economy is to make a performative agreement for America's economy and budget and the workforce to be totally integrated and reinforced by organizational structure and systems that can stand the test of time to fulfill its proper intended use of continuously moving America towards survival and stability. Adhering to the highest principles of interdependency and trustworthiness, such a performance agreement would necessarily make all expectations explicit, establishing a clear, mutual understanding about commitments regarding mutual expectations surrounding our roles and our goals. It would identify and mention all available resources, specify desired results, and benchmark goals and set generalized procedural guidelines without the inflexibility of dictate methods and means. There will be defined, definite accountability and determined consequences. Then, evaluation infrastructures to hold all the results by measurement observation, and discernment to the foil of desired objective outcomes, so adjustments can be made accordingly to course correct where it is necessary. Establishing principles in a performative agreement will empower everyone who understands them to act without constant monitoring, evaluating, correcting, or controlling, thus reducing the need for regulation and the expenditures of enforcement. It gives coordinates and dictates a course of direction, provides vision and direction, and schedules timelines. Performative agreements regarding financial responsibility must be modeled on accountability and built as a helpful structure and system that empowers self-enterprising and entrepreneurship. Following along with a performative win-win agreement is the intentional education of future forward workforce. It is the intentional education of these who have skill development, talent exploration, and character building to ready them for what is to come in the society-driven, civilization advancing development process of the economy. The agreeable terms and conditions of economic endeavoring are to ensure that old age has a security and that youth have a future, and that society puts a tangible investment into sustaining the health and well-being of all people. And most importantly, delivering economic equivalencies to compensate domestication with appreciation, validation, and value, and reinforcement for homemaking and caregiving, including elderly care, veteran care, and special interest in incentivizing child rearing, child development, and child care. These are far-reaching implications that are all about getting desired results that we can bank on. They represent strategic, economic orientation with fiscal responsibility and financial stability in keeping with comfortable conservation of sustainability. Reducing the deficit will take an economy and budget that has a clear knowledge of who we are, a clear picture of where we want to go, and the ability to respond in any circumstances or conditions in a way that aligns our perspective to maintain a clear picture. To accomplish this, economy as a whole should have shared structure and systems and strategy with shared vision and principles of guidance, wisdom, power, security, and managing expectations. The economic agenda must explicitly state what our mission is, what our resources are, that we have what we have chosen to do, and what not to do with our resources and our strategic approach. No matter what we emphasize, we fixate on, the same reality exists. Stewardship, caregiving, sustenance, and healthcare are of paramount importance and must factor into all economic and budget outcomes. We need to address and respect both the struggle for survival and the well-being of people. Conflicting agendas between capitalism and environmentalism is disabling our national resilience and cohesion and costing future generations the viability of continuation of life vitality and survival. The greed of multinational corporations and the power of overtly competitive nation states threatens human dignity and social justice, as well as the integrity of the natural world. Differences in philosophy, analysis, vision, and strategy of economic endeavors should be vigorously addressed in respectful, cooperative models to recognize and capitalize on how many of the differences are complementary and can serve for mutuality in security, interests, and benefit. Number 6 through 7. Immigration should be a source of prestigious integrity and a pride for America and migrants alike. America must act responsively to current dysfunction of immigration and the crisis at the border, not with fear and hopelessness, but with renewed sense of immigration being part of our sense of national identity and social purpose, to be a beacon of hope to co-create a nation that can be an inspiration to the world in terms of inclusivity, productivity, thrivability, and the sustainable stewardship of humanity, civilization, and our shared planet. This time of breakdown can be transformed to a time of revitalization for the American identity and the American spirit, and the integrity of the United States' sovereign borders. If only we will be brave enough to confront the simple truth that immigrants are much like Americans in that they are pushed by hard necessity and pulled by enormous opportunity to contribute both to quality of their personal existence and to the entire nation to which they call home or seek to call home. America must accept the imminent need for the skills and resources of a developing population to establish a more cooperative and caring basis for addressing national problems and response to radically changing global circumstances. America must accept the most fundamental challenge against the future is an invisible crisis that is a loss of social cohesion around compelling national purpose that draws out our enthusiastic participation in life. America must establish its foundation of immigration on the pride of coming to America, to take part in the land of opportunity, to be a source of pride. Immigration must have social, ethical, legal integrity, be honorable, and reflect humane values. There needs to be a socially neutral immigration process, keeping out of the determined development of sensible, reasonable, fair, and humane immigration policy, the unnecessary and unhelpful narratives that cast all immigrants as if they are hungry, ignorant, unskilled, culturally, morally, generically impoverished, incapable people who will contribute to the radicalization, degeneration of society, or alleging that they are here to break laws and behave criminally. This is a lie. As a matter of national security, all persons who enter this country must be accounted for, of course. If they are to come into our borders, they must do so legally and by legitimate entry points and voluntarily participate in legitimizing processes of integration or risk expulsion with prejudice that denies any future attempts to re-enter legally. All persons presently in the United States without legal authorization must be given a time-dependent opportunity to readmit themselves into the United States by a legal course of inter-immigration authorization, otherwise risk expulsion with prejudice. Number 8 through 10, public safety. A perfect system of social order will make society safer fundamentally. Building out the basis of social structures that extend opportunities for individuals to sufficiently produce the means to support human life so that people are not led into temptation of criminal activity by desperation. Creating space and opportunity for personal cultivation of social existence that helps one self-determine consciously and voluntarily law abide in their relationship with their citizenship and a sense of civic duty. We must empower safe home spaces for cultivating domestic tranquility and fostering of the good people who are naturally opposed to criminal activity and are naturally inclined towards self-defense and protection of personal property and that of the nation. We must get rid of the incongruities in the justice system. Period. Establish a course of correction programs for criminals to reform and earn the right to reintegrate into society, and provisions that systematically deter reoffense and strictly enforce consequence for repeat offense. We need to comprehensively train, equip, fund, and extend the incentives to recruit law enforcement, first responders, drug and alcohol counselors, crisis counselors, and firefighters so that public safety is a dynamic, interoperable force to keep communities safe, to invest in, to live in, and to work in and also, most importantly, to raise our families within. We must establish a national standardized process to purchase and own firearms that deters criminal activity or threats of personal or public safety by deterrence of significant time, background checks, verifiable references, permit licensing, and database registration of ownership. This will stop the unregisterable, untraceable, unregulated direct-to-consumer sale of built kits for high-capacity modification kits for firearms as well. Number 11 through 14, give youth a future. Every success of a child begins in the home. Safe domestic home space gives youth the best chance to succeed at life. Families should be supported in the creation and in the cultivation of a safe home space where children receive nutritional sustenance, nurturing support to develop, an environment conducive to healthy development, in a neighborhood that is safe to explore, in a community that fosters healthy development with community learning centers that encourage experiential education and ignites the curiosity of individual intelligence to express human ingenuity and self-mastery of the wisdom informed by learned curriculum that prepares them for a life of thriving social, economic, scientific, innovative, technological, and civic involvement. 15 through 16. Energy independence, resiliency, sustainability, accessibility, and affordability are crucial. Energy is the lifeblood of civilization. Energy accessibility in America should be approached as a human right to resource. Just like clean air, potable water, nutrient-rich sustenance, and housing. Energy consumption and production and distribution needs to be reasonable and responsible. The cost of renewable and non-renewable sources of energy must account for the entire cycle from extraction at the initial process of production to disposal of the final spent used consumer product. Industrial and large-scale consumption should be set at a higher price point than residential by a federal tax that places the financial responsibility of cost for extending power line and power tower transmitters, maintaining and upgrading power plants and distribution hubs to the utility tax from peak users. Residential energy must be set on a track towards reducing consumption through efficiencies in appliance, home, weatherization upgrades, modernization of heating and cooling sources, and home-sourced emergency backup energy. Power grids should be localized networks that create resiliency and shared efficiencies in the entire neighborhoods, including businesses and schools, to establish a base average rate shared among a group of consumers to secure affordability and accessibility and communify the advantage of solar, wind, thermal, hydro, and biomass gasification installations and battery storage. Energy efficiency upgrades should be a public interest, a human right, and a well-being investment ordered and funded at the federal level and implemented at the local level. Number 17 through 19 and number 29. Preserve, protect, defend. America represents the best of all possible leaders of the free world. Even with all of its imperfections, America is still in its becoming process, becoming a great nation that is an inspiration for the world, and when necessary, a disciplinarian to preserve, protect, and defend the values and uphold the virtues of a free nation, a free people, and a free world. America deserves to represent to Americans and the good people of the world, as well as peace-seeking nations, a nation worth defending. America and its military should be cultivated as a force for good in the world, serving the interest of preserving, protecting, and defending and securing the enduring peace of America and her allies. It is in America's best interest to sustain excellence in military organization, deployment, readiness, and response capabilities. This means that America must continuously seek to improve the deployable, operational, and executable efficiencies, capacities, and strategies in existing and newly discovered areas to pioneer and lead forward in every arena of military exercise with expertise. Americans and those immigrants seeking a path to citizenship should be enthusiastically recruited to serve with honor, duty, sacrifice, in exchange for unique benefits and opportunities afforded to active duty service members and to veterans. America must also have a best-in-class veteran support and care and civilian reintegration programs, including training and experience equivalencies while in service that translates into civilian certifications and accreditations for those who have served in a particular role during their time in the military and wish to continue the same form in service as a role in their civilian lives. Such civilian continuation of service could be in the medical, security, engineering, or technical fields and the like, other such relevant roles that have particular role equivalencies. Number 20, intelligent artifice. Artificial intelligence systems have the potential to ascend the human condition to ever higher levels of well-being, peace, and prosperity, productivity, and sustainable abundance, to serve the ends of decentralized power and securing life thriving for all people on planet Earth. It is because any form of intelligence attracts malevolent intelligence, and because virtuous intelligence can be repurposed to serve nefarious ends, and be controlled by bad actors from a distance who unceasingly seek to exploit any perceived weakness and take advantage of any conceivable vulnerability, and because in an ever-increasingly digitized and increasingly connected world of borderless interoperabilities between cyberspace and utilitarian technologies and cybersymbiotic technologies, which America depends upon for its survival and continued prosperous development, that America must commit itself to a code of ethics, moral legitimacies, and life-preserving, human-centric prime directive by which to advance artificial intelligence that can reduce the harmful and destructive risks with this intelligence, making it possible in the world for multiple intelligent agencies and sources to live without the risk of harming humans. Number 21 through 24. Democracy is worthy of freedom and liberty. A democratic society is composed of self-determining individuals, and the associative relations that hold them together must provide the architecture of co-equal significance within the institutions of society and state, so that the substance of their individual lives and the specific situations that general social arrangements apply to them under given conditions of time and place assert that the sacredness of individual personality and validate its specific dynamic interests as natural and therefore should be considered a stimulating, fostering, nurturing power that each individual should be free to specify within social arrangements and not be dulled by this or that social organization, rather refined and directed in a coherent way, so the individuality is created under influences of associated life that coordinates society into a working power, evolving the correspondence and dignity of the consummation and culmination of the people of this nation, who individually and collectively move and protect more voluntary forms of association with the instrumentality of a free and open society, developing within a more inclusive and unified organization of the state. The organized and established institutions of the nation mechanize liberation of capacity and provide guidance in dealing with particular perplexities in domestic and social life, while converging the episodic disposition of the institution of private property and personal autonomy into a systemized accountability and consequence that operates as a socially creative force of social and civic ideals naturally upheld in the daily occupations of making a living and living a life, including all people in a stage of democratic assembly and encouraging the want to assemble together to perfect the practice of virtue of civics and service, which suffices for the purpose of ascertaining the experience of citizenship of the state and the methods of service which they may be put to use in enterprising. Number 25, democratic legitimacy. The legitimacy of a democracy is the power of the people to assemble and vote for representation and the laws governing them. Any process which obstructs the voting process or denies the process to legitimate legal voters or does not secure against fraudulent claims to voting is a violation of the democratic function to government. To secure the voting process against violation, exploitation, fraud, and distortion, all voting should be compiled, counted, and validated by integrity-bound officials and non-biased validation accounting systems, legitimately authorized by the government, legitimately authorized by government-issued identification and exercised by voters through a non-counterfeitable, secure mail-in or drop-off ballots. Number 26 through 27, sovereign autonomous personhood. Sovereign autonomous personhood should be recognized and validated as the basis for arguing social and civic ideals to reduce racism and discrimination, to protect life and rights to choice, and exercise choice and freedom of expressions. Number 28, enterprise and entrepreneurship. The free and open markets of proper capitalism emphasizes personal entrepreneurship, small business, as the keystone to a thriving, vibrant economy and society. As such, these economic organizational structures should be reinforced by government incentives that foster their sustainment, stability, and development. They represent localization of an industry and markets in a competitively counterbalance corporate monopolization, and to establish creative avenues to grow personal and generational wealth that make way for ever-increasing numbers of individuals and families to achieve self-reliance and for communities to sustain mutually assured prosperity. Number 30. Homemade happiness. In order for America to fulfill its intent to include all people in the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, every person must have a safe dwelling to cultivate as a safe home space from which they can organize their life, prepare their self-identity, practice self-expression, accumulate personal property, protect life and property, and labor to homestead a way of living that secures their own self-reliance and independence. So long as the housing stock in America is organized and regarded and developed only as a commodified asset rather than a life vital resource for the people, then there is no hope for preventing houselessness and the proliferation of poverty. Housing must be recognized as a human right. America made accessible, affordable, safe, habitable, well-maintained, intelligently built, sustainable lifestyle design, stewardship enabling, and continually increasing housing stock made from locally sourced longevity materials is the only feasible plan to ensure housing is an accessible, affordable, sustainable human right. And with that, we've reached all 30 of the Common Sense Agenda points. Thank you for your valuable time and attention and listening through in this. The main focus that I want to reiterate here is the fact that most of the things that I have spoken about have been phrased with so many words, but they're essentially saying that America must have true independence. That was the original spirit of intent with our Declaration of Independence. To say that every person has a right to self-determine, and every person must submit to government that helps them in the process of self-determination, and that they shouldn't be beholden to government. Government works for the people. And unfortunately, America has been skewed to be self-serving for small groups of people in their little pockets of thriving. And it has left a tremendous amount of people without means to sustain just the basic necessities of life. This is unacceptable. And it doesn't make sense, because when you ask people, most people say, well, we don't want anyone to suffer. We want everyone to be able to have life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Because by ensuring that everybody else has it, it secures it for yourself. And if we're abiding by the golden rule, which is the one rule that applies to all applicabilities of any potential outcome, you do unto others as you would have do to you. So if you want yourself to thrive, to survive, to have stability, to have integrity, to be able to free express and to not be suppressed by other people, to have opportunities abounding, have a chance to do your best and to express your talents and be in service to the world, and to be compensated for the great benefits of value that you give to the world, then you should want those things for other people, and to help to establish that so that everybody can benefit from such an organization of America that allows and provides for that is the one way to ensure that you will always have it for yourself. Because this is the fact of the matter. If you think you're going to hunker down in some little pocket of thriving, hiding away from why the rest of the world falls apart, on the outside of your walls and barriers and boundaries that you've created for yourself, eventually things are going to start to fall apart inside, because we need people. And the more people that we have involved in a cohesive society, the more likely it's going to have stability. Things will eventually break down if there's not enough shared power and enough individuality and enough independence that is supported by infrastructures of interdependence. And eventually, if you put up a barrier against a falling apart society, there's nothing stopping them from coming after you. So it makes no sense why people think that they can go run off and hide somewhere and it would save them from, the inevitable fall of the world. Why not instead use your time, effort, energy, and resources to help to make sure that America doesn't go to hell in the handbasket? We have everything that we need to be able to build an America that has stability and fosters well-being for everybody, and that ensures that nobody has to run and hide from, fear that society is going to fall apart, or divisiveness is going to cut such a huge rift in society that everything becomes split and faction and there's no social order. That it doesn't have to be that way. And if we work together towards building a future in a common sense way, then we don't have to worry about the fears of uncertainty, because we've made the effort to assuage those fears. We've done everything that is possible to make sure that the future outcome is one that is desirable and one that we've created ourselves and we've directed in a direction that works for the best interest of everyone. And so with that, I know that the common sense agenda is, in my opinion, common sense. And the way that I have presented it, I've only really connected it based off of the numbers. If you go and you actually read the booklet and what it says, it's pretty simple and straightforward. And there are 5 basic beliefs of the No Labels movement that essentially just put it together nicely, that if we had an America that just worked in this simple, efficient way, and we could all agree to just these basic principles, things are more likely to move forward in a positive direction for everyone. And so I do know that the No Labels movement has halted their attempt at a unity ticket for the 2024 election. Although I think it's because they were trying to find both a Democratic and Republican candidate to run on that unity ticket. I don't think that they seriously considered the option of having a fully independent person step into the role. And I believe that was a short-sighted move. I do understand they had a lot of pressure from people coming at them and attacking them as if they were some kind of shadowy movement to undermine democracy and to force a win for Trump. And my opinion on that is that fear that has moved people to like attack the no labels movement or any other individual independent that's attempted to run is the exact problem with our country. There's no reason why we should have to fear having as many people run for president as are compelled to do so. And because based off of some, perceived reality that people have somehow mutually agreed on, that, we are going to be stuck with just the binary choice of lesser evils yet again. To me, it's like the reason why we're in this predicament is because we haven't opened ourselves up to the possibilities that maybe there's a different way to move forward. And that instead of looking to the same old political candidates that have been in the race forever, the same types of politicians that have, posted their face and their name and their platitudes in all social media accounts and wherever their voice can be heard, and have been interviewed wherever they feel that they can find safe space to be able to talk about their agendas and whatnot. Those politicians have still yet to do anything but reiterate the same talking points, the same arguments, the same sense of divisiveness. Nobody has given a real legitimate vision of the future moving forward and like put themselves in a position to say, like, this is how I perceive the world. This is my proposition. This is how I have determined that my outlook is. This is the sorts of things that I want to see improve in the world. And this is the steps that I want to take to get there. These are the orientations of, my guidelines for my sense of creation of policy and how I would go about administering it. Most people are focused on just talking about hot button topics that are floating around in the media because that's what sells. It's the idea of having the twisted fact attacks and whatever's going to be the clickbait material that is going to garner enough attention for the moment, so your name keeps getting reinforced amongst the crowd of masses, so that when you go to vote, all you are really thinking about is what was the name, what was the label that I'm trying to vote for, instead of like, wow, I remember that person that stood there on the stage debating the other people, and when it came down to who had the best ideas, who had the best sense of, moral legitimacy, who was the most respectful, who was the one that was actually presenting themselves as most trustworthy, who could be understood and related to, who offered something that was like going to actually improve and affect your life at an individual level, but do so to make sure that that is shared in an equivalency amongst all other people. You need to think about those sorts of things when you're determining who you would want to vote for. And I just don't think any political candidate that's out there has provided even a reasonable sense of direction moving forward. At least not in a sense of where their policy was coherent in terms of like guiding the country in a particular direction. It's mostly been, well, we're going to do this in this regard and this in this regard. But sometimes it's conflicting interests. And it's like, how can you accomplish, fact A if it has a direct counter attack on point B? You need to be able to have some sense of connect dot A with dot B and dot C and dot D. All of them come together and they create a unified picture of what it is that we're working towards. And to be able to share that picture with people so they can get an idea, so they know where we're going, so they can be in service to that. And so they can participate and contribute to that in such a way that makes sure that it's actually going to be applicable. There's no reason to create laws that aren't enforceable. There's no reason to create a direction for the nation if it never comes down to the local level where individuals feel like, yes, I'm here doing my part of fulfilling this, grand strategy that our nation has decided that we're going to move forward towards. You know, something very similar to what was approached with going to the moon. You know, Kennedy decided we're going to the moon in this decade, and we're doing it not because it's easy, but because it's hard. We're giving ourselves this challenge. Not everybody, you know, jump on board to do that. And it aroused an entire nation to move forward in that direction. We accomplished amazing things because of it. And I believe we have opportunity to do that again. I know that if we can just say, we're going to become a nation of stewards, and we're going to start to steward our planet, we're going to steward our population, we're going to steward our homes, we're going to steward our nation, we're going to make sure civilization is stewarded in an intentional way so it can sustain and continuously advance, then we have a shared common interest, and we can move towards that in a reasonable way, and do so in such a way that's just and fair and right. And if we have the appropriate guidelines, we have the appropriate vision, we have the systems engaged for people to involve with, we have the infrastructure that's being built and developed to support that and to make sure it's continued, and to make sure that we're fostering a sense of accountability for everybody, responsibility, making sure there's actually enforceable consequences when people offend such a system, then we're moving in the right direction. And government really isn't that hard. It's a matter of organization. If you know how to put things together, kind of like a puzzle, and you know that this piece goes into this piece, and it has to all come together to make one unified picture, it's a pretty straightforward process. It's, of course, lengthy. It's a slow process. It's not an overnight thing, but that's why we have a president that comes into office for a term that lasts for 4 years, because in that 4 years, you have an opportunity to make substantial advances in the direction of the vision that you see for America. But this is why I think it's important that we vote in a president that has enough longevity to the vision that they, and enough organization and application that they can carry that vision forward through 2 full terms for a full 8 years, to give a advanced start for as many of Americans as is possible, so that in a new administration that would come in after that, they can just continue on in the process. If we can have something like that a president now could initiate, and that a president in the future could then carry forward, and then the president after that can then carry forward, and do so in their own way, bringing their own insights, their own talents, their own skills, their own viewpoints, their own understanding, befit the times that we need to kind of alter things in this direction, because, unforeseeable circumstances have kind of changed the trajectory a little bit. We're going to pivot ourselves back into alignment with our directive, where we're actually going. And to give that type of longevity in a sense of what America's trying to pursue will give us an inherent unity. And it's the kind of the same effect that the founding fathers were able to establish. They created a Declaration of Independence saying, we are going to be a sovereign, autonomous country. We are going to do things our own way. We're going to make sure independence is important. We're going to make sure that we protect life. We provide life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness to everyone. And then we have created a structural, organized framework by which to accomplish this under reasonable terms and conditions, with a sense of jurisprudence under our Constitution that says these are the ethical, legal bounds by which we are going to approach this vision of a nation of unified, independent people. And the founding fathers and the first presidents of America were able to carry that vision forward together to help to mold it and shape it, and to give it more definition, and to give it more elements of impact. And we're able to continue to carry that sense of unity and inspiration forward for all people, so that America could be together as one and continue as a United States of America. Now, there were plenty of things that came to pass that have challenged that unity, but those sorts of things have helped us to better identify the principles by which we want to continue to stand as a free nation, of free people. And we were able to take the necessary detours to reconform ourselves back into the direction moving forward towards where we would actually want to be. And so we were able to help to create, the Civil War, and we were able to create the Civil Rights Movement, and these things helped us to grant more freedom and access to more of our fellow Americans. And we are able to establish new laws that help to give us more rights in terms of our choices in our daily lives, so that the government didn't encroach into our personal homes. And to make sure that the people themselves remembered that ultimate power rests with the people always, and that the government is there to make sure that your personal sovereign autonomy and your personhood is not going to be violated or offended by somebody else. And that we have to be able to maintain that independence with interdependence among a large group of people, and govern that in such a way that's reasonable, fair, just, and right. And that's what we were able to accomplish with the Constitution. And that's what we continue to try to strive towards when we create laws. Laws aren't just about, creating something so we have a political identity that people can point to and say, that's what I'm for, that's what I'm against. It's supposed to be like, these are the guiding principles by which we are going to interact with one another in society, how we're going to advance ourselves forward, how we're going to conduct ourselves in daily lives. It gives us a sense of social and civic ideals. It helps to inculcate it and to help us to have a social ontology that's cohesive, so that the way that we live reflects directly the way that we have determined that we want to be able to live. And so having a constitute government head that understands those things and that wants to lead the country forward in a way that we can advance the American identity and revive the American spirit and renew the American legacy, and to advance it forward, propel it in such a way that it gives it momentum to go on so we can last for another 250 years. We need to have a leader now that sees that potential, that wants to strive towards that, and has a legitimate grand agenda strategy to be able to get us in that direction. And I don't believe that we're going to get that from the current offerings of the Democratic and Republican parties. So again, I'm putting myself out there to say I'm willing to do whatever it takes to be able to bring America back into the realm of mass potential, and to take advantage of that in such a way that it benefits everybody mutually, and do so in such a way that we can start to dissolve the divisiveness that we have and lay it to rest, start to get everybody to come to, at least mutual agreement for mutual interest and mutual benefit, that it would be in our best interest to stop infighting, wasting time, effort, energy, wasted breath on fighting each other about petty things that make no difference in our actual true lives and how we live it every day. Put that stuff aside and focus on the realities that we're facing. We have a continuously contentious world. We have many different pressures that are coming from all different directions, forcing us to have to take measures to help to, keep ourselves afloat, in a sense of the world's kind of having a lot of directions that are pulling us in terms of conflict and dealing with environmental degradation, and climate change is real, and it's having significant impacts on health and economics and infrastructure and livability of the planet and the diversity of our biota, which we are wholly dependent upon. And it's going to start dramatically decreasing our clean water systems and supplies, our food systems and supplies. It's going to make our resources continuously shrink. And unless we take the right objectives right now to preserve, protect, and comfortably conserve the resources that we have, and come up with new and innovative ideas, technologically advanced opportunities to fix the depletion of our resources and to make sure there's enough for everybody to go around, we are going to be in an ever-increasing contentious world because we're going to be fighting over resources even more so than we are now. And it doesn't have to be that way. We can reverse course. We can get ourselves in alignment with planetary boundaries that is the safe operating space for the planet. We can put ourselves in our outcome ideals in whatever vision we're moving towards to align with achieving the 17 Sustainable Development Goals authored by the United Nations, which gives us a legitimate framework of how to create a sustainable world that can have a continuation that will serve the best interest of all people involved. And then a overarching vision for the future for the nation to identify with. It says, this is who we're going to be. This is who we are. This is what we're about. And this is what we're going to bring forth in the world, because this is what we would want to have as our legacy. And I believe that legacy in the best interest of ourselves, our future, and our posterity is to become a nation of stewards. To be able to co-create a well-faring world paradigm of stewardship, and to move towards that with conviction, apply all of our resources, all of our capacities, all of our interests, all of our time, effort, and energy towards that. And along the way, enjoy the process. This isn't going to be some menial, hard labor that's going to be, drudgery and we're all going to be miserable in the process. This is going to be a way to thrive at living, a way for having life vitality be a part of your daily process, and that you will find joy in co-creating something worthy, and that you will benefit from it, and not at the disadvantage of anyone, that everybody's going to benefit from it. It gives you a sense of pride, prestige, integrity. It's humane, it's dignified, and it's just the right thing to do. So I believe that if we can move forward in that direction, we're going to be going the right direction. And I don't see anybody else that's offering something that quite has that type of longevity to it, or that sense of vision. We think in America, we look at these, innovative technological companies like, oh, these are, great creators of the future. Oftentimes those people are held back by the parameters of a bottom line. They are for-profit companies. And so they're not going to invest their time, effort, or energy into something that they don't see that's going to be able to contribute to their bottom line. And so in a capitalistic society that is allowing companies and corporations to drive forward the advancement of our civilization, we are limiting ourselves to only that which these people think are going to bring value to their bottom line. Not to say that it's not good that they go and they create fantastic and wonderful innovations that help to, further convenience our lives, or bring quality or beauty or, integrity or intelligence to our lives. These are quality things. But we need to have a proper capitalism that says, yes, do these things, go out and pursue and create innovations and advance us, and think boldly and work hard towards, creating something in the world that's not just good, but is like necessary. But let our driving force that determines the outcomes, the things that we're actually going to incentivize to be created, let that be a guiding force of an overall agenda. Proper capitalism says our objective is to become stewards, and that we're going to work towards that. And we're going to have guidelines that make sure that we don't step out of bounds of that or work against that in some capacity. And that we're going to invite everybody into the full meridian of experience so that they too can actively participate and contribute to that society, and that they will benefit and will provide the necessary means to get people in an upstart mode so that they can start working towards that. There's no reason to try to live in the false reality of pull yourself up by the bootstraps and, work hard and, things are going to work out for you. That's not the way that it actually works in America. That's a lie that we have been led to believe, because it's an easy way to cancel a bunch of people out, because they'll think, well, it's just too impossible. This world's not made for me. I can't make a difference in the world. And so they give up. We need everybody to be involved. We need everybody to step up and to participate and contribute. And so we need to be able to have a capitalism that says we're going to move and help to advance forward any objective that's going to get us to where we want to be in terms of stewardship. And we're going to invite everybody to be able to do so. And we're going to make sure that we keep in check corporations so that they don't create massive monopolizations that end up actually creating less opportunity in the world than they are creating opportunity. give them an entire arena for operation, but that isn't going to be disadvantaging anybody. And then empower small businesses. Small businesses and entrepreneurship is like a substance in our nation that is crucial to its continued prosperity. And so we need to be able to support small businesses and to encourage it and to incentivize it, and do so in such a way where they don't have to worry about creating a business and they're just going to be eaten alive by a large corporation that has more money, more power, more legal capacity to come and just consume a small business and wipe them from the face of the earth. That's why we have a lot of lost prosperity in our nation, especially because the tax system, the way it sits now, most corporations have zero tax that they end up paying, while we have people working hard as laborers and their labor wages are being taxed and they barely have enough to put food on their table. I mean, in the meanwhile, we're having large corporations that are paying billions of dollars to their CEOs and generating wealth for their shareholders, but they're not concerned about the stakeholders of the planet and all of the people that they're disadvantaging in terms of that. And if we have an opportunity for more small businesses to come up and actually have a basis to sustain and to build from, then we will have more people that are able to contribute into our tax base, which will only improve our economy, only improve the way that we get to govern, improve the capacity of what we can invest into to help to advance stewardship forward. And then having a tax base that is reasonable, fair, and right, where you can't have people that are the richest in our nation and corporations that are making massive amounts of profit to somehow be able to walk away at the end of the year not having to pay any taxes at all. It's just, that's not fair. Does not make sense. We provide so many economic opportunities for corporations. We give so many subsidies to them. We give so much opportunity. We help to educate the people that are going to be working in their workforce, to bring them value and to share their talents and skills with. The nation provides these corporations with a tremendous amount of infrastructure, roads for people to be able to get to work, water, sewer, garbage for the people to be able to have, housing for people to be able to have, grocery stores for people to be able to have in order to work for their companies. So they benefit tremendously from the nation. And so they need to be able to pay a consistent and variable tax that cannot be whittled down to nothing, so that they can help to contribute to the advancement and development and maintenance of these necessary life vital resources that we must share as a society. And then again, providing opportunity for small businesses to be able to flourish and to sustain and to enrich their communities and to help families to be able to grow prosperity and generational wealth for one another. I don't see that we need to have a direct competition between corporations and small businesses. I think that there's enough opportunity, if we can create the right bounds, for us to be able to together mutually foster a fantastic future for America. But we need to be able to have that shared common goal of stewardship. And I believe if we can create regulations and visions and forms of administration, informed law that gets us into that direction and moves everybody into that, plan, we're all moving towards this together. And then we're going to be putting ourselves in the right direction. We'll have a proper capitalism. We'll have a nation of stewards. We'll be able to make the planet a better place. Every single day we know we will be working and it will make improvements in these ways that we know are necessary. We're going to be able to see a turnaround in a short amount of time in terms of like the experiences that we have in the world. We're going to see an opportunity for the dismantling of power structures that allow for conflict to arise throughout the world. We'll be able to create opportunities that helps the less fortunate in states that have yet to be able to advance in these countries that are considered third world. We'll be able to give them opportunities to advance themselves so that they can be independent themselves and help to reduce the chance that conflict will be able to arise in those areas and lessen the opportunity for people to come in with massive amounts of money to be able to exploit these people. And having an opportunity to make sure that we're advancing the sense of freedom to the world is probably the most important aspect of stewardship. It's to say that a free world is a world where we are all in mutual agreement, building a consensus of this is the type of world that we want to achieve and that we're working towards, mutually. And do so in such a way where it's not taking away from the opportunities of future generations to have a chance to have stability and thrivability and something that they can too build on, to take us to far greater heights. Once we get this whole business of, survival, under wraps and we have it set for ourselves, we still have to put the work in to maintain it, but we know it's rock solid, this is our plan. Then we have all the chance in the world to take risks for higher things. And that's where we want to lead ourselves forward into the future. With that, thank you again for your valued time and attention and consideration. I'm glad I was able to share this information with you. Again, go back to check out the No Labels movement. It's very interesting, the approach that they're trying to take. And I think it's very respectful to want to, tap into the fact that many people are just tired of, the binary choice of lesser evils of the Democratic and Republican Party. And I think that if we can advance something different forward for a time, it will help to inspire those parties to get back on track with actually doing what their, original spirit of intent was when they were founded as political organizations. And hopefully be able to get them to stop being so divisive with one another. If we're not in a race between the two of them fighting with each other directly, maybe we'll have time for them to create some distance between one another to get perspective and to find common ground once again. And so that we can, that time, that space, and that distance will help to kind of like smooth over the troubles that we're facing in terms of our lack of being able to come together with that sense of, you may be a Democrat and you may be a Republican, but regardless, we're all American. And we need to get back to that reality. And we need to just agree at least on that. And if we can do that in such a way where we're not, in fear that, the Republicans must win or it's going to be the end of civilization as we know it, or Democrats must win or it's going to be the end of civilization as we know it, like, stop even playing on those notions of fear because they're lies. Like, we have other opportunities. Let's consider those, legitimately. Give us a different chance moving forward. And then we'll no longer be caught in that entanglement that is actually suppressing us and holding us back from reaching our fullest potential as a nation, as a people, as a world. So with that, again, I thank you for your valuable time and attention. I appreciate you. Be well.